So we're starting to learn today the halachot of wine. I have a few, at least 2 weeks about it. We said that next week, Bezat Hashem, we'll be learning, or hopefully, maybe even this week, Hatov Amativ, what happens when we have a few wines, and that's will be for the. Yeah? If you want to open your book, so we are in Siman Kuf Ein Daled, is 174. Kuf Ein Daled 174. We won't go through all of the Siman. Some of the topics we'll discuss in the future, Bezat Hashem. And some of the topics, the culture changed a bit. So the way we drink, the way we eat. In the past, not necessarily they used to drink water in the middle of the meal unless they were thirsty. Today, when you go to buy falafel, it's Yom Ha'atzmaut, or pizza, wherever it is, so they'll ask you, do you want a drink together with it? It goes together. So the culture, the way we drink has changed. And therefore, also maybe the way we think of the brachot has changed. Let's ask a question. I drink in the middle of the meal, I drink water. I said hamotzi in the beginning. Do I say shehakol on the water I drank? No one says shehakol, right? No one says shehakol. It's obvious. We don't say it's part of the meal. 1 second. Why is it part of the meal? We know that in the meal, we say hamotzi at the beginning of the meal. And then whatever is part of the meal, we ate it together with bread. So it goes by the bread. But if something that we isn't eaten together with bread, for example, fruit that we eat at the end of the meal, we say a separate bracha on them. When's the last time you dipped your bread inside the water?
Never.
2 years old, 3 years old, right? Maybe when we were 4 years old and our parents said, you're grown up already, you're 4 years old, stop dipping your we don't eat bread together with water, right? So why don't we say shehakol in the middle of the meal? Why? Why when we eat fruit in the end, so it doesn't cover it, and why is it the filatat? I can understand in the past when you have hummus and dips, so you have everything with bread. Obviously, that's tafel. Even today, when you have chicken and meat and salads, it comes to satisfy you. So bread also comes to satisfy. It's the same category. Okay, I can understand it. Why water? Why water? So first, it's an argument in the Rishonim. It's an argument in the Rishonim. We are Noeg, as everyone here is Noeg. We say Hamos in the beginning, and that's it. That's it. Why is that? Say the Shulchan Aruch, and I'm skipping to the end here because it brings us to wine. More or less in the end of Kuf Ein Daled in Seif Zayin. I'm reading just one sentence. In the beginning of the meal, they didn't drink. In the past, they drank only in the middle of the meal. So the reason you're drinking in the middle of the meal is because you didn't want the water to harm you. And now, while you're eating, that's part of your eating. So it's not part of the bread, but you can call it as part of eating, part of making you satisfied. There is even an opinion in the Rishonim. Isn't the pasuk ve'achalta ve'savata u'verachta? That's where we learn Birkat Hamazon from it. Ve'achalta ve'savata u'verachta. So you should eat and be satisfied, and then bless Hashem. So Birkat Hamazon is midoraita. What does satisfied mean? We typically translate it to an amount of bread. We have, if I ate just one small bite, I'm not satisfied. One of the Rishonim says it means also eating and also drinking. So it's true that we don't eat the bread together with the water, but part of the meal, part of being satisfied is drinking water in the middle of the meal. Okay, so that's, otherwise it's too dry for us. We get thirsty while we eat.
The proof is that nobody sets a table without a glass.
Right.
When you set a table for a meal, you put a glass out there.
Exactly. So you can see, it's true. You go to the table, you have a glass. That's part of the way of drinking. But today also it's so much part of the way of drinking during the meal, not afterwards, that when you start a meal, and that I think changed a bit for generations. I'm not sure what's the health philosophy behind it. You have a cup. In the past, you aren't sure you're going to have another cup of water. I have one glass of water, that's it. Then, yeah.
You should not drink, just say in a meal, lose the hydrochloric acid in your stomach. Additionally, you're supposed to drink before or way after.
So maybe that's the reason. In the past, we used to drink before or after, maybe perhaps after, as if like to wet the food inside the stomach. And now it became a culture to drink in the meal. So today, I drink a bit in the beginning of the meal. I know that there's a very good chance I'll drink a bit more afterwards. In the past, it wasn't like that. I drink a bit in the beginning. That might be the last cup I'm having until the end of the meal. That just shows a bit of a difference in how we viewed water. However, wine, that people used to drink wine in the middle of the meal. Yeah, wine was more common to drink in the middle of the meal. And here comes the question. I said hamotzi in the beginning of the meal. About wine. Do I say hagafen on the wine?
Wine on the table when you made the motzi?
Yeah, let's say it was on the table. Yeah. Let's say it's not Shabbos, okay? Or let's say I did Kiddush in Shul, and for some reason I didn't do Kiddush again at home. Yes, I did Kiddush in Shul. And I come home, did hamotzi, and now I'm drinking wine. Do I say the bracha on the wine or no? Now we're beginning from the beginning of Kuf Ayin Dalet, the beginning of 174. And says the Shulchan Aruch, Yain shebetoch ha'seuda, wine in the middle of the meal. You say on it borei pregafen. You say borei pregafen on wine in the middle, and it's not exempt by the pot. It's not tafel for the bread. Why is that? Let's make it even bigger. Although I'm drinking the wine like to wet the food and to take down the food and to go together with the meat, I have a heavy steak and it's fatty, and I want the wine to help me eat this heavy steak. Even although that, I still need to say hagafen, although that's really part of the meal. Yes, why is that? So that the answer is simple, says the Mishnah Berurah, since wine is important, it's not considered tafel lapat. It's important. Wine is important, right? This bottle of wine, although it's a small one, probably I'm not sure how much it costs, but probably costs more than a regular loaf of bread, right? Because wine has importance to it. Here, so that's the first halacha, a very common halacha. If we have wine in the middle of the meal, although even if we said hamotzi in the beginning, we say hagafen on that. Another very, very common halacha. I went to shul. I did Kiddush in shul. It may be common more for me when I do Kiddush in shul, but also for everyone who has Kiddush at home. Let's say on cookies. And then you have drinks. You have a drink. So you say hagafen. Afterwards, you want to drink more. Do you say Shehakol or no? Do you say Shehakol?
What, on?
I drank wine.
On water or
Yeah,
juice?
I drank wine, and then I ate a few cookies. I ate a few crackers. I made the mazonot. Yeah, I made the mazonot. Oh, I drank wine. I drank wine, and then afterwards, yeah, exactly.
Make the bracha on the cock.
So do I make another bracha of Shehakol? So is it the Shulchan Aruch? No. The answer is no. Why is that? That's what we're learning. That's the point of learning. If we have it in mind, yeah. If we have it in mind, that we'll learn. We'll mention a bit now, but we'll learn to also later. If I have in mind, that's a general halacha. Let's say I'm on a diet, or I think I'm on a diet. I'm telling myself I'm eating one cookie and that's it. Same as Donald, I said I'm eating one cookie, but the cookie is nice. So after finish this one cookie, what do I want to do? Just one more. Since in the beginning, when I said the bracha of the mazonot, I had in mind just for this cookie, and then afterwards I changed my mind. That in the halacha is called nimlach, or changing your mind. And since you change your mind, you have to say another bracha of mazonot. They can have two cookies and 10 minutes difference between them inside the same house. How they, big Brachot. So we learned a bit later, but we'll expand it a bit more. But if I change my mind and I decided to eat more, so I say another bracha. Okay, so if it is someone I'm having just wine, nothing else, no coffee, nothing else, and he said hagafen, and then he changed his mind and wants to have also another cup of coffee. So then he says, Shehakol. But I didn't change your mind. He's here, sitting down, he's in the kiddush, he's planning to drink, he's planning to have coffee. There's a kiddush club, sit down kiddush club, not like the kiddush club we have here, which is stand up. In Memphis, we used to have a sit down kiddush club for the Hashkama Minyan. And I mentioned, you can think about it.
Why would the hagafen cover the water? The totally is totally different nature.
So let's read. Yain poter kol minei mashkim. The wine exempts any other drinks. Okay, not herring, for example. If I eat something which is shehakol, not exempt by the wine. And says the Rama, afilu mi bracha rishona, even from the first bracha. So first, before we explain why, we can see the what. According to the Shulchan Aruch and the Rama, if I drink wine and then afterwards coffee, so I say borei pregafen on the wine. I do not say shehakol on the coffee, and afterwards for the bracha achrona, I say bracha achrona only on the wine. I don't say it also nefashot. I just say on the agafen. Why is that? And I'll just read just a few words from the Mishnah Berurah. שהוא ראש וראשון לכל המשקים וכולם נטפלים לו. It's like the head of all of the other drinks, and all of the rest of the drinks are kafel for us. I'm in safe bet if you're following me. So it's the head of the mashkim. And the poskim say, even important drinks, even if afterwards I have whiskey, afterwards, so I say just hagafen. And why is that? Because we have a rule that all of them are in one category of drinks. All of them are drinks. And when I have one thing, so I have everything else in mind. For example, if I have waffles, and then also crackers, and then also cookies, I just say one brachon mezonot or whatever, and that's it, right? Or if I have different fruit on Rosh Hashanah, when we bring the dates, and we bring the apples, and we bring the limon, all of them are foods, all of them grow on a tree, and I say borei pri ha'etz on one of them, and that's it. That's it for all of them. That's it. And here the chidush is that although they have separate brachot, they have different brachot. Since in the end all of them are drinks, and the reason hagafen has a bracha for itself is because it's important. It's so important, it has a bracha for itself. But the fact Chazal made a new bracha for hagafen doesn't mean it's now not a drink. It just means it's such an important drink, so it has a special bracha for itself. Yes.
Would this be if you did make extra bracha? Those be levatala or?
Okay, so if I do not need to say a bracha, and I say that will be a bracha levatala. Here we do have an important halacha to mention, quite relevant for kiddush. In a kiddush, in a usual kiddush, usually only one person says hagafen. Right? Only one person says hagafen. They're all yotze by this hagafen, but only one person says hagafen. When other people drink drinks, so although they yotze the kiddush and they don't need to do kiddush for themselves, they still need to say shehakol. Why is that? Why don't we say shehakol on the other drinks? Because the wine is the main part, and the rest follows the wine. But if I didn't have wine, I was just yotze kiddush by someone else, so I need to say shehakol. So if we go to kiddush and shul, and we hear hagafen, although we were yotze by kiddush, and afterwards we take a drink, we say shehakol. We do a kiddush ourselves, and we drink, or if we drink at least kemeloli gugmav, a mouthful of wine, then we don't say afterwards another bracha on the drinks. Yeah, so that's halacha, quite common. Quite common halacha. And another common halacha, which will have a big meaning in this halacha. So when we learn probably next week, we'll see how much we finish. when we have two wines. Okay, when we learn about two wines. It's a very, very common halacha. Every Shabbos, before the meal, what do we do? Make kiddush, right? We make kiddush. We say hagafen on the kiddush, right? Afterwards, in the meal, we bring more wine. The same wine. It's the same wine in front of us. We had kiddush. My kids, okay, my kids, for example, like all other kids, I think you are the same. We say hagafen, and then we want to have more. And sometimes the parents told us, you know what? Wait until you eat. Wait until when you wash your hands. Don't feel sugar yourself before the meal. So we have hagafen before the meal. We wash our hands, say hamotzi. Do we say now another hagafen? We say another bracha. So no, right? No. Hamotzi doesn't end what happened until then. Okay, hamotzi isn't like a cutting point that whatever was until hamotzi it ended. No, hamotzi it just starts something new with something which started beforehand. So if I have wine on kiddush before the meal, and then I say hamotzi, and I have more wine, I do not need to say hagafen.
Two questions. One, what if the wine wasn't on the table at the time? And two, what if you had no intent to have the wine and then you found it changed?
So that's a great question. We'll keep it for Tov Amativ. And we'll for when we learn about Tov Amativ, just answer one of those questions. Okay, if I didn't have any intention to have wine, if I said I'm driving, not I'm driving, I need to stay awake, okay, and I'm having only one cup of wine with the kiddush, that's it. Okay, I'm not having more wine, or I have grapes or something, it's too much sugar. And then I change my mind, so I say hagafen on it, like any other place of changing the mind. The wine was in front of me, not in front of me, that will save for when we learn about the Tov Amativ. Okay? Okay, so that's the wine of before Kiddush. Interesting thing here, which I'm not sure how much we need it. We need, and maybe that refers to the question. When we do Kiddush, obviously we know in our mind what's going to happen in just a few minutes. We'll start a meal and we'll eat. And when we eat, we might also drink wine. Havdalah is different. Havdalah is different. When one does Havdalah, typically he doesn't think of a meal afterwards, and he doesn't have in mind of having a meal afterwards, unless specifically he now sat for Havdalah and put his food and is going to eat, okay? Or he washed his hands beforehand, and this is really showing he has his table set. So Havdalah, if I did Havdalah and afterwards I decide to eat, drink more wine, then I do need to say Hagafen. And that's the rule of changing the mind or a new mind. So that's related to the question you asked. Okay, let's continue. There's a interesting halacha at the end of Kuf Ein Daled, the last seif there. It was common on those days, and maybe a bit common today, that once it's a bracha, everyone else answers Amen, and the drink and the Yotzei Yedei Chova. Find it today when we say Hamotzi. Usually Hamotzi, only the person cutting the bread will say Hamotzi. All the same we find today for when we do Kiddush, and other people also have the shots of whiskey or wine or whatever. In the early minyan, the Hashkama minyan, the Kiddush, when you once it's Shehakol, other people say Shehakol on the whiskey or no? Yeah, okay. So
If they make burger, I say Shehakol.
okay. But some so it was common more in the past than today for different reasons. That especially when people are gathered together, they're eating together or sitting to drink together, and people in those days used to have wine parties that they used to drink together just to drink some wine. So one used to say the bracha, and everyone used to listen to him, say amen, and drink. There's an interesting halacha here, which it's not common so much, but just it's interesting to learn it. That in the wine in the middle of the meal, everyone says the bracha for himself. Okay, everyone says a bracha for himself. He's not yotze by other people. And the reason is more of a maybe practical or health or security reason. That people were scared if I'm now in the middle of eating, all of a sudden I hear someone saying the bracha, I have some food in my mouth, and I want to say amen in the middle, and I'll choke. Therefore, Chazal said in the middle of a meal, everyone will say the bracha for himself. He'll finish eating, finish and drinking, and then he will say the bracha.
A regular meal without kiddush at the beginning.
Yeah, a regular meal without kiddush in the beginning. Yeah. Okay. There's sometimes it's more of a minhag, or just to explain the words that we say in the middle of the meal. Sometimes we say birshut, or we say a bracha, we say birshut, and sometimes we say savri maranan. Where did it come from? Where did the birshut come from? Where did savri maranan come from? Right. So what's the difference here? Sometimes before, I think once one of my kids we said hamotzi and didn't say birshut, and he was quite upset about it. Say birshut, yeah. Or savri maranan. Other people say, where does it come from? So savri maranan birshut is like getting permission.
Is this if you're making the bracha on behalf of the entire table?
Yeah. So first we said only when we have having a bracha on behalf of everyone else. And also, if I forgot to say Savri Maranan or Birshut, obviously the bracha is a bracha, and there's no problem, then we can just continue the meal. The idea of Birshut is like getting permission from everyone. I'm saying a bracha, to give me permission and have in mind to be yotze of the bracha. So that's the idea of Birshut. Especially when it's a meal, everyone's eating together, so if you have to get permission. The idea of Savri Maranan is when we want people to stop and concentrate, especially when it's in the middle of the meal. So typically, wine, they used to say, have the bracha in the middle of the meal. And says the Rama, although wine, we don't, when we drink wine in the middle of the meal, so everyone says the bracha for himself. But if he asks permission, says to them, Savri Maranan, I'm giving you a few seconds, swallow, Savri Maranan, pay attention, swallow. So Savri Maranan is like the asking them or asking them to pay attention, and maybe also to take a moment to swallow what they have, and that maybe nullifies or cancels our concern about them being told. Okay, so we finished now Kuf Ein Daled, and we learned quite a few halachot about wine. We saw that wine is so important that although we drink it in the middle of the meal, we still say hagafen, although we had bread beforehand. It's so important that if we drink wine and afterwards we have other drinks, we everything goes by hagafen. We don't need to say afterwards Shehakol or whatever, or the same for bracha achrona. That's only if we drink the wine. And the next siman, I was thinking, how's time? How's time? Should we continue this next week? Okay, so our next siman will be about Hatov Amativ, about when we have two wines, of interesting halachot here, when we have two wines. And I'll give you a question, more of a culinary question, and you can think about it until next week. For Kiddush, okay, you have dry wine for Kiddush, like dry wine was aged for 12 months for Kiddush, and you have sweet concord wine. Okay, sweet concord wine. On that moment of Kiddush, before you drank water, before you ate, that moment of Kiddush, without the halacha perspective, just from the taste perspective, what wine do you prefer to drink? Okay, so that's the question for next week. And what is it? And what wine do you have? And it does have a meaning for halacha. So the Bezat Hashem will continue next week.
Pomegranate. Halacha